So there's a lot of confusion around the masking, and I get it. It's a novel coronavirus. If I would have thought 3 months ago, after talking with the CDC, that I would be standing here with a cloth mask on my face with the knowledge that we had 3 months ago, I would have thought that's nuts. Because even in the conversations with the CDC at the time, a little over 3 months ago, this mask seemed like it made no sense. But we know a lot more 3 months later. And that's how this whole journey has been. And that's why we've heard so much frustration today, is that things change. And you read medical information one day, and a week later it's totally different. That's why we have a panel of experts at the hospital right now that are meeting every morning. Because every day a new article comes out. We thought there were 2 good treatments before. Give azithromycin and hydroxychloroquine. Guess what? It causes bad arrhythmias and heart problems. So we stopped doing that together.
So we don't do that at all?
Not well, in some situations, but we've toned it down because there's risks to that. And I just give that as an example of things are changing so quickly that we have experts every morning, and I turn to them because, each of us have our own niche. We have a knowledge base that we're really good at, but we turn to one another in the medical community, and we have to bounce this off. So it's even harder when it gets out through, regular news channels and people with different agendas and things like that to figure out what's the truth, okay? So the truth that I believe in today is that the wearing a mask is a vote for the economy. That this is a step forward in terms of protecting our community. And here's why. It's not to protect me. I don't believe that a cloth mask really conveys that much protection to me. But if you look at the data and you look at the countries and then areas that have reopened their economies, that are doing well, that haven't had a second surge, they've gone to universal masking. Everybody wears a mask. And it's because we know that there's asymptomatic transmission, right? Something like 25-30% we saw. So you feel good, you wear the mask because you could still be spreading the virus, and you wear it to protect the person next to you, all right? So all this stuff about personal and individual freedom, if you value the health of your neighbor, wear the mask because it's protecting them in a cloth mask. Now, is a cloth mask an optimal mask? Probably not, okay? Each step better, you go to a surgical mask, it's gonna convey more protection, both to you and to the wearer. And it's gonna, see, I'm feeling it now as I talk more, there's some challenges to it. It doesn't have its downsides, right? Jen and I run up and down the stairs. It's not easy, it's a sacrifice, and sometimes you gotta open it up to breathe, right? So, but it conveys some protection, it's a vote for the economy, it keeps your neighbors safer, and what we didn't want is we didn't want everyone wearing surgical masks because we didn't have them in the highest risk area of the hospitals. Now, as we're buying ourselves time and that supply line is opening up, shifting in that direction is probably a good step. If you could provide in other countries and economies that have gotten to that point of production and supply where people are wearing surgical masks, that's probably a good step. I felt obligated to be the one to represent this because Dr. Liang and I were the ones that really encouraged Dr. Kaiser in this direction, right? So it would be for the amount of heat that he's taken today over this, I thought personally responsible. Dr. Liang, if you're ever interested, gives an incredible breakdown of the data. He convinced me. If you look at the other countries that are doing this, if you look at the data, the CDC is now recommending it. Different entities, the counties that have had massive outbreaks have done this. So I do think it's a good step. I think that businesses are going to do it anyway, because if you walk into a business, the community, as we start to open things up, and I hope it's sooner than later, right? I want us to get back to business as quick as we can. I think that this is a step in doing that. I think businesses that mask, if you go into a salon, they're going to be in masks. They're going to want their person that's in the chair that's getting their haircut in a mask to protect both of them. I have a child that's in that high-risk group. I'm not going to go out to restaurants unless everybody's in masks, because it's going to give me that peace of mind and that comfort. So I do think that this is a step towards what we all want, which is to get back to business and to get our economies open.
Thank you. Supervisor, is that your last question? Well, I know there's going to probably be more. You got
I'm
nothing?
done.
Okay, you're good. Supervisor Hewitt?
I think Dr. Mesisca.
I think you just made a great point. I think businesses are going to do that anyway. In other words, they want to get as many customers as possible, and the vast majority of them were going to require that because of just what you said. But the key word here, and since the sheriff already said we don't have enough people to enforce it, and certainly environmental health doesn't, but I'll tell you what, that's the key thing. Voluntarily give that choice. And if it's somebody out jogging in the Coachella Valley, ready to pass out without a mask, he definitely will with a mask. I want to make one quick comment. This is the first time, I think, in the history of time that a tax collector has gotten applause at anything other than his funeral. So consider that. You know, that's the first time.
So I do think,
Thank you.
with respect to the order and also why we encouraged the doctors and the medical community really encouraged Dr. Kaiser to issue the order was because it was so time sensitive. And at the point that we made the recommendation as a county, I'm proud that we led the state in that recommendation. Other counties around us then issued orders and guidance with respect to masking. And it was because it was at that point where we were headed up very quickly on that steep incline of cases. And Dr. Leung and I and others on the public health team, we all felt that you want to win hearts and minds. We want people to make the right decision voluntarily. Totally agree. But when it's time sensitive, even if you're not going to enforce it, putting the weight of the order gets people to take it seriously. And if you walk around our county, super proud as you walk around and look around to see that people are taking this. And I think the vast majority of your constituents also believe that this is the right step.
Thanks so much for that.
Thank you, Dr. Mesisca. Any questions from my colleagues for our ELC team?
Mr. Chairman, I want to offer an alternative view. I don't think anyone up here is going to vote to mandate mask wearing. But in light of everything you just said, Dr. Mesisca, I think we should send out our strongest urgings that people who are in close quarters, in restaurants, in a salon, that they continue to do that. What I fear might happen if we don't signal that is what we've seen in a few other states where people go into a business and they're asked to put a mask on, and there's a very violent reaction to that. We know the sheriff's not going out to write tickets or arrest people. We're not asking him to do that. But I think in the interest of public health and safety, if we ask that of people, most of them will do that if we ask. And if a business says, I'm sorry, we're not going to serve you because you're not wearing a mask, well, then they part ways. But I don't know that we should be getting into this business of trying to play doctor and decide what's safe and what's not safe. I think we should probably err a little bit on the side of being conservative. So, just my 2 cents worth.
Okay, thank you. I have a difference of opinion, but we're going to go with Supervisor Jeffers.
Well, I want to follow up on Supervisor Washington's comments. It is dangerous for elected officials to venture into the medical field, but it's also dangerous for the medical field to venture into the economy. It can't, come on, thank you.
You hold off, please.
The impacts, and look, you know this, the impacts of the decisions that are being made are devastating to certain segments of our society, just devastating. And they're paying for it now, and county employees and city employees and school district employees are going to pay for it in a few months or later this year. It's just gonna happen. The cuts are gonna be so severe. Some people are gonna argue we're in a third world status with some of the cuts that could be coming. So I have a slightly different view with my colleague. We need to try and be the referee on some of this stuff so that we protect everybody's interests. That gets back to the constitutional oath that we took that was mentioned earlier. We got to make sure that we respect the Constitution and its protections. We also got to make sure we respect people's health in the collective, like you folks have been charged with and have been doing that job. And we also have to protect our economy, the health of our economy at the same time. So we don't have a direct role. The state has pushed all elected officials out of the chain of command on the health decisions. We can argue and scream and protest all we want, but at the end of the day, the county health officers in all 58 counties, they get to make the decision. Our role, I view, is to try and nudge a different perspective from time to time so that everything is taken into consideration. And I don't think it's improper to say the wheels kind of fell off last week. I mean, I'm sitting in my district office and all of a sudden the phone is blowing up, the emails are blowing up, And you'd think Red China has just invaded. God, that's really an inappropriate one, isn't it? I apologize. You'd think that we just got invaded by a foreign, anyways. So we do have to deal with this. It does come in our lap, whether we like it or not. And so we're going to have to push back on occasion and say, yeah, you probably shouldn't go that far.
Kevin, can we do both? Can't we open up our economy? Well,
I think that's exactly where we're going.
Why don't we go ahead and have you all sit down? Because I know you've been standing up for at least maybe an hour,
trying to breathe in a
trying to
mask.
breathe. And so, look, we've been having discussion already here, and I'm gonna obviously open it up to my colleagues